WIXY1260, the way radio was meant to be, that's for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, we got special guest Eddie Munster, better known as, or should I say Butch Patrick, better known as Eddie Munster.
Well, it's better than Butch Patrick. That's my alter ego. Hey, how you doing?
Thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate this. We are having a great time. We've been excited. And Eddie, Butch, what would you like to be called today?
Eddie
Just
Butch.
not late for dinner, right?
Let's go with Eddie Butch.
Okay, Eddie Butch.
Butch, please.
Okay, Butch.
Yeah.
The listeners for WIXY1260 remember it was a generation where the Munsters were just coming out in 1963, and I read that you went in for the audition to get the part of Eddie Munster, and you came back out within an hour and had the part. Tell us about that.
Yeah, what they'd actually done, it was, I was living with my grandma in 63. It was actually coming up on 64 when we actually went on the air. But I had moved back to my grandma after doing a year of the Real McCoys and a year of General Hospital. So they cast this kid named Happy Durman into the role, but they looked at 500 kids in Hollywood and they still thought that there might be a better way to go. So Yvonne DiCarlo was out there to do a screen test, and they flew me out. My agent got them to fly me out, and I went directly from the airport to the studio to do a screen test. No audition or reading. It was just strictly on film. And Yvonne and I had some chemistry, and they said, don't go home. And I got the part in about, like you say, in about an hour.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. Who would have thought it would change my life? And the show would be 50 years old next year, and still, I found out while writing my book, this Munster Memories book, that people were coming to me and saying, are you aware that the Munsters is the most syndicated show of all time globally? I said, I was not aware of that. I would have thought it would have been the Lucille Ball show or Lucy or Andy Mayberry or something, but it happens to be the Munsters, a little 2-year show.
You were 11 years old at the time.
Yes.
Okay. So what is a major memory that you had? I mean, you were there at the studio with all of these stars, big names. What is one of the memories that you have from that time?
Well, the thing that I enjoyed doing the most was on Wednesdays I would be able to go off their lot for lunch and go to George Barris's shop and go see what he was building. And you see Sonny and Cher picking up their Mustangs, or Frank Sinatra hanging around, or everybody waiting for Elvis to come get his Cadillac. But me, I would go to the hobby shop and get some slot car tracks for my slot car track. I'd see George Barris, and then the fact is I would explore the back lot of Universal. You know, 12-year-old kids, that's kind of like what they like to do. And there wasn't a better place to go poke your nose around than the Universal back lot.
I've been to Universal. You are absolutely right. So what did you do back there? I mean, did you get in any trouble, or they didn't care?
No, they didn't. I knew how to walk on and off a set without causing any disturbance. And my uncle used to supply horses to the Westerns, so I would go see Uncle John, and it was usually at Wagon Train to the Virginian, or I would go to the Lagoon and hang out with the McHale's Navy crew. Ernie Borgnine was a good friend, very nice to me. And then movies were being shot over a 2-year period. We had about 50 movies come through, so it was always fun to go to the soundstage and see what they were building from scratch, and then see it completed maybe 6 months later, and then they'd be onto something else. And I also used to go to the Mike Westmore was my makeup man, who won an Oscar for Raging Bull and is like probably one of the best makeup men in the world. His daughter's doing Face Off right now, Mackenzie, and I'd go to the lab and see what he was up to, and that was just cool. I was like the sort of like the mascot of Universal for a couple of years.
Awesome. You just mentioned makeup. I read that Fred Gwynne, who was Herman Munster, it took about 3 hours to get his makeup completely on.
On a bad day, 2 on a good day, between 2 and 3.
What about you? How long did it?
I was pretty easy. It was only about an hour.
Okay, was some of that real? I mean, okay.
That was a fake widow's peak. My eye teeth were real for my fangs.
That's what I was going to ask.
Everything else was, the ears were fake. The eyebrows were bushy and they were fake, and the widow's peak was fake.
So the teeth were real, really?
That's how I got the part.
That was awesome.
They probably loved my eye teeth sticking
I've been
straight
dying to know that forever, so I just answered one of my own questions. That's cool. Okay, let's go back to the co-stars. You had Fred Gwynne, Yvonne DiCarlo. I mean, these are really, really huge people. I loved Fred Gwynne. Can you give me some memories of those people? I mean, Al Lewis, who was on My Three Sons, which I think you did a cameo in as well.
Al was actually on Car 54.
Okay, Car 54,
with Fred Gwynne. I did 17 episodes of My Three Sons, and that was Fred McMurray and William Demarest.
Okay, that's right.
But back to the Munster stuff. What happened was Fred was very much taught me a lot about acting, and he was always in a constant war with the producers. He was an actor, and they were the producers, and they were the enemy. Al Lewis was a over-the-top crazy guy who loved the sports and liked like to throw the frisbee with me or toss a baseball around. And very much like Fred Gwynn, didn't like the producers either. Yvonne DiCarlo was a star. I mean, she was a movie star. These guys were TV stars and maybe theater stars, but she was a movie star coming into television. Very unusual at that time. They all had kids. They were really good to me because I was out there on my own because my family was living in D.C. because my stepdad was a pro baseball player. So I'd fly back and forth every other weekend to visit him. But when I was out in the coast, I lived with my uncle, hired a woman to take me to work. And so they were all really good. And the show had been produced by the guys that did Leave It to Beaver for 6 years. So it was a very kid-friendly crew. That made it very tolerable.
And I understand you're still involved, or you still hear from your Pat Priest, who was Marilyn.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Pat and I do shows together. She's probably up in Idaho right now. She's probably done for the season. This is Halloween. But yeah, Pat and I are friends, and we have been really close for the last, 10 or 15 years.
Awesome. Do you guys still do things together? I read that you did get together and do some special appearances every once in a while. When was the last time you saw her?
Saw her earlier this year at Horror Hound in Cincinnati. It was probably about 4 months ago.
Okay. We're going to be talking to Butch a lot today. We've got him for a little while. Butch, you also have radio in your blood. Once it's there, it doesn't leave, correct?
Well, yeah, I've done so much radio on this side of the mic, and then a friend of mine purchased some radio stations, and I said, since I'm not drinking and partying all night, I'll be sober three years now. Now getting up at 4 a.m. instead of going to sleep at 4 a.m. isn't such a bad thing. So I said, as long as you got these stations and you got the 60s rock, WRCN over there, I said, why don't we give it a shot as a DJ? So we're developing a show, yes.
Awesome. Well, we're going to come back and ask you some more questions, but right now, here's a song up there. We would like you to introduce it, would you?
What is it? Which one are we listening to?
We're going to do right here.
Oh, okay. Ozzy Osbourne. Oh, this is great. Ozzy's one of my best guys. In fact, I actually marry people from the same church, the Universal Church, me and Ozzy, and this is Crazy Train.
Here on WIXY1260. Lisa Jordan, we are here with Butch Patrick, a.k.a. Eddie Munster. I have a question that somebody wanted me to ask you. Since this is Halloween Day, when you were a kid playing Eddie Munster, did you still go trick-or-treating? And did you dress up?
for Halloween, as Eddie Munster?
For Halloween, yeah. Did you dress up as Eddie, or did you, as Eddie, or did you go as something else?
I usually went as something else.
Like what?
Oh gosh, I would whatever Mike Westmore had laying around the lab. He gave me a really cool mask of the Mummy. He gave me a cool Phantom of the Opera mask. I had a bunch of stuff in the studio.
So you were like getting like Halloween costumes, like makeup artists were putting you together for trick or treating?
I had access to the studio.
Oh my God, that was great.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And then I gave them away like an idiot.
Exactly. One other question about when you were a kid, and then we're going to move on a little bit. When you were 11 years old and you're walking around Universal and things like that, were you starstruck? Did you know who these people were? Did they faze you in any way, or did it just not matter? These are just people like you.
Pretty much people like me. My mom would explain to me certain people. She, that's Burt Lancaster. He's a really big star, and Judy Garland, and this and that. And then Edward G. Robinson, when I played his grandson. Walter Brennan at the time when I did The Real McCoys, Academy Award-winning actor. But no, that was pretty much, just another day at the work type of thing.
Did everybody treat you, like a star or a kid, or how were you treated on the lot?
There was a running joke. They used to call me a 39-year-old midget because I was 11 years old. I looked about 8. I acted about 20. So they figured, that was the joke that I was a little adult, trapped in a kid's body.
So you, at the time that you were in the Munsters, you had already been doing other things prior to that, like guest appearances then? Is that
No, I did 2 series. The Year of General Hospital, the first year it was on, and the Year of the Real McCoys.
Okay, so what, General Hospital?
And a lot of other guest starring roles.
What did you play on General Hospital?
Dr. Hardy's girlfriend's kid, typical stuff.
Okay.
There's not a whole lot you do when you're 7 years old,
That's true. Let's talk about the Munsters car. Okay, I read that you didn't think this car was real safe. True?
Well,
it was cool looking.
It wasn't licensed, had no seatbelts. But no, I didn't, it wasn't safe because when we left the lot and went on a joyride, we all considered it, I didn't care. I was having a good time, but everybody else seemed to be concerned.
But so you did leave the lot with the car?
Yeah. Fred, I had no control over it. I was just sitting there and Fred decided to go for a joyride.
Okay, see, that would be me. I would be the one that would be going, come on, let's go. So yeah, ask them. They'll tell you in the studio. Am I right? It would be me saying, let's get in. Yeah, so Okay, after the Munsters ended, it was a 2-year run, so 64 to 66. Where did life take you? What happened? Tell me a little bit about where you headed.
Well, after that, I came in from Illinois, and after the Munsters, I went back to Missouri to live with my grandma again for a year, my 8th grade year. And then when I came back to town, I went over to Disney and did some Disney movies, did the Monkeys, did 17 episodes of My Three Sons, Adam 12's, Ironsides, things that teenagers do, a lot of movies, a lot of commercials. And then the summer of 71, I did the Saturday morning show called Lidsville for Sid and Marty Krofft, who were big producers after Puff and Stuff and the Bugaloos. They were doing this really artsy, fartsy, crazy, psychedelic Saturday morning live action shows with Charles Nelson Riley and Billy Hayes. And that I did Lidsville. And then after that, I kind of, thought about it. I was drafted into the war. Vietnam War was still going on. I was drafted, and I had a really low number. So I thought I was going to go to war and die, and I decided to get my money out of the bank early and go spend it, which I did. And then I never went to war. And that was pretty much my run at it. About the time I was 21 years old, I got out of the business. I was pretty much driving my Corvette around and surfing every day and getting high and, enjoying the 60s like a lot of people were. It was a great time to be alive,
Okay.
I don't do it anymore. Now I'm clean and sober 3 years now.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
I had a nice 40-year run.
Over your jacket and show the shirt, please.
Oh, there we go. Can you see the shirt, everybody?
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'll move back.
I was going to say, I think we're on radio.
Yeah, but he's videotaping,
like that.
so yeah, you're going to be out there.
That's very cool.
We're 50 years later, almost, and the show is still winning audiences all over the place.
Yeah, new little guys
New
watching
little kids.
with their grandparents and their parents.
Exactly.
I see a lot of them come up to the table, which actually leads me to my next MunsterMemories.com, which is a book we're writing, and I'm not even really writing it. The people are writing it, giving me their stories. All I do is put them into a cohesive 13 chapters of 13 stories for the 1313 connection, and it's all about what the Munsters meant to America. I get so many people coming up and saying, "Oh, I love that show. I ran home from school," or "I was called Eddie because I had funny hair," or "I built my first hot rod because of the show," and just story after story after story, all good and positive about what they used to like about the Munsters.
And what do you think some of those things are? I mean, what are you hearing? What are you attributing
they like
the
family
success to?
values, and they like I said, the cars and the makeup and the storylines, and just a good laugh and funny humor that is timeless.
Now, Fred Gwynne, he did a lot of writing. So did he have a lot of input on the show as far as what his jokes were and things like that?
No, that was one of the things that he didn't like the producers for. The producers would write the scripts, and they would write like what he thought were like
stupid
second-rate scripts, but they wouldn't change it because it was their show and they were writers, and that was one of the issues that they had with. They wouldn't let Fred ad-lib.
Okay, I see the problem, especially with Fred Gwynne. So let's take it now after all of the partying and everything's finished. You have told us some stories in here today about some people that you've met, some groups that you've met, and can you share a few of those things with us and what you've been doing?
Yeah, just I want to be a musician. I never really could play a bass. I had one, it was more like therapy for me. But my first concert was Jimi Hendrix at the Forum, which was really cool. I was 14 and it was 68, and that was a pretty good starting point for a concert. I saw the Black Sabbath at the Whiskey, the first appearance in the United States Forum. Drove Iggy Pop from the Continental Hyatt House to the Whiskey A Go Go when his limo didn't show up one day. Was on American Bandstand when I had a bubblegum record with Sugarloaf, a band called Sugarloaf, and Loggins and Messina was on. I was actually the 3-minute interview over them with the 30-second interview, so I guess I headlined over Loggins and Messina. Had Eddie and the Monsters, first unsigned act ever to be on MTV, and this and that, but I saw Led Zeppelin a zillion times, and now I work with Louise Harrison on environmental stuff, George's older sister, so even though I missed the Beatles on the set, I did get a chance to do the Monkees, and for a 14-year-old kid, that was a pretty big show.
Yeah, let's talk about the Monkees.
Yeah, Christmas show.
Yeah.
It was good. Fun time. I mean, I was in the 8th grade. I went on the interview. I really wanted to do it. So normally I couldn't really care. I could care less whether I got the part. It was just one of those things. But this one, I really wanted to do the show, and luckily I got it. Same summer, I did a movie for Chuck Jones, his only feature film in animation called The Phantom Toll Booth, which is a really good mandatory reading book in schools. And now I'm working with his grandson, going around the country showing screenings of it to introduce people to the movie after they've read the book.
Okay, 1983.
Eddie and the Monsters.
Eddie and the Monsters.
MTV.
Okay, I watched the video.
Yeah.
And it's really, really good.
Yeah, we did that for $3,500 in one night. It was a 3-location shoot with about 40 extras, and we pulled it off. And we wanted to make rock videos, so we just decided to make our own video. And then we went to MTV in New York without a record contract and BS them, and they aired it on Super Bowl Sunday. And from that idea, I think they got the basement tapes because they started airing unsigned acts that had videos out that were pretty good. And I feel very comfortable. That was a great little video for its time.
The name of the name of the tune was called "Whatever Happened to Eddie."
Whatever Happened to Eddie.
So if you go on to YouTube,
Yep.
which is where I went today, 1983,
Yep.
you can watch the video of that song, and it's excellent. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
I wrote the lyrics, although I did fake the bass and fake singing. I was the original Munster Minelli.
You were faking that? Really?
I faked it.
Oh, it sounded
I
like
did it well, though.
You certainly did.
Brent Black, my guitar player, sounded just like me, and my brother Steve was in the band, and then we had Reek Havoc on drums.
All right, one more question about Eddie.
Yep.
I'm going to go back again because I understand that you still you carried like a werewolf doll, woof woof.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you still have the doll.
No, don't have the doll.
Oh, I thought you had the doll.
No,
What happened to the doll?
I hung him from a noose, and he deteriorated in a picture window at the beach. And then I sold him to a guy who restored him, and we sold 93 knockoff dolls to people, the collectors around the country. And we were going to make 100 of them, but the mold broke at 93, so it wasn't cost effective to make 7 more dolls out of a new mold. So I wound up without one. So now I have another guy making a new run for me.
Okay.
But the original is in a museum in Indiana somewhere.
Oh, okay. We're going to come back. We're going to talk to Butch Patrick, a.k.a. Eddie Munster, a little bit longer. And since he's our radio guy, as well as you're directing right now, or you have been a director in the past, a little bit, and dabbled. And we're going to talk about some of that coming up. But we're going to let you introduce this song here. Which one would you like? This one right here. How about that one?
Oh, Green-Eyed Lady?
Or you can do this one, whichever you pick. It's your,
Let's go with Green-Eyed Lady from Sugarloaf.
Okay.
Friends of mine, Jerry Corbetta and Green-Eyed Lady with the band Sugarloaf.
Here on WIXY1260, we'll be back with Butch Patrick, Eddie Munster, here in just a few minutes.